Okay, this is a video that was posted to YouTube. It's obviously you can see up here at the top from 2014, an athlete named Jordan Testerman. Uh, I'd like to just point out right away that Jordan's not doing anything wrong here. This is something that many athletes are doing incorrectly right now, and I'm seeing it all over the place. And it happens more so in the long than the triple because of how fast everything occurs in the long jump. And so I don't want anyone to believe that I'm trying to point out anything that, Jordan's doing incorrectly or saying that he was incapable or is incapable of jumping, whatever it might be. Just want to make sure that I put that there first and foremost. I just found this video, and right away it was one that spoke to me about athletes transitioning to landings too quickly. And so you'll notice a couple of different things here. And what I want you to be thinking about when I'm going through this is I want you to recall back to the pictures I already added into this book update at the beginning of the flight reflections about um, the poles with the bungee at the top of it and having athletes jump trying to touch the top of the bungee to provide kind of an upright body posture in air. So that's something I want you to be thinking about as I'm going through this video and kind of reflecting on that as well. And again, I talked about it in the video for that earlier part of the book update where I said you could also use something like a pool noodle if you're sitting on a box that they could jump up and try to touch their head on. So anyway, let's get into this now. This athlete here is transitioning too early, and it happens after takeoff. Okay. Right now, let's go back just a little bit. Body posture is pretty darn good. Okay. The flight angle is going to be good. There's a good, strong, it looks to be connection between the approach and keeping speed and the takeoff. So I feel very good about all of that. The athlete, though, starts to lean backwards a little bit. And when this happens in flight, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, in some instances, depending on your other body parts moving. Like if you watch the hitch kick, an athlete's upper body is all over the place because they keep swinging their arms and their legs are moving, and they're able to, at least they're trying to, I should say, balance themselves and find their equilibrium and center of mass. Right. This athlete, though, really isn't moving a whole lot to counterbalance things or move around. He just kind of leans backwards. And this happens a lot in the hang technique. And this is why I talk about this not being the greatest of techniques in the flight and landing chapter, just because, a lot of athletes arch their back too much. Well, the arch of this back ends up having this athlete lean backwards. And he does bring things forward, which is nice, but he's not really able to get himself fully back over his center of mass at the right time. He's still behind here. And so his center of mass is more down here, a little bit behind him, in my personal opinion, than anything. And so what I see here is a lot of athletes, again, not just pointing this out with Jordan, but a lot of athletes take off and right away their mind goes to, oh my gosh, the landing's coming in split seconds because this event happened so quickly that I need to prepare for the landing. And I think what happens is athletes they understand that their heels should hit first for the landing. Okay. Like you can see that he's leading his heels. You can also see, kind of a side note, that one leg came down before the other. So again, his body's trying to be protective of itself because I believe, again, as I'm seeing this, I don't know what he's exactly thinking and what his body's reacting to, but I would assume that, again, his body's thinking, oh my gosh, the center of mass is not right. I don't feel controlled. I got to get a foot down and brace myself a little bit. And so even though it looks like he's leaning forward, his body posture is still not in the right location. He's got both arms forward, both legs forward, and he still has a little bit of kind of a backwards lean if you look at angles. And so again, I feel as though there's some loss of control there. So athletes take off, they think, "Oh man, I got to get those heels out in front of me. I got to get those in the sand first for my landing." And so a lot of times they lean backwards. and they're not fully upright, and they don't bring their body fully through like they should, like you saw in a chair landing drill in the book, to properly land. And so if you watch this, Jordan hits with heels, and this is his furthest heel, but then he comes down way behind those heel marks. And that's all because he was leaning backwards in midair. Now, what I highly recommend is I highly recommend watching your athletes take off. If you're new to being a coach in the jumps, or even if you're a veteran, using slow motion is highly suggested. Look for body posture in air. If you see them leaning back, the ability, I should say, not availability, the ability for them to hit the sand with their knees at 90 or so, like we talk about in the chair drill, and then bring their butt through is pretty much, it's non-existent. It can't happen. So that's why this athlete basically just sits right down. And that's why he braces himself as well with his shoulder, or his elbow, because he came down early with one leg. Balance didn't seem like it was there underneath him. And then he had to kind of, again, brace his body. So pay attention to flight. Pay attention to a backwards lean. And if that happens, like I mentioned before at the start of this video, reflect back to those images that I provided at the start of this kind of flight reflection section of the book update, and look at the bungee setup that I had. Teaching athletes to be patient in air, to feel themselves kind of hanging there. I'm not talking about the hang technique here. I'm just talking about hanging in air, okay, is essential. We've got to help them be comfortable, confident, patient in the air, and then know timing wise how to bring it all together so they're putting themselves not in danger, but in a good position to maximize their distances. So again, one last time here, pay attention to flight. If they're leaning backwards, they're most likely thinking about landing too quickly. I've even seen athletes take off from the board and literally lean backwards almost instantly without doing this kind of hang technique that Jordan here did. They just lean backwards because they're thinking, oh, I got to get my heels out to land. Like, we got to be careful of that. And we've got to be very aware of how that will negatively impact their overall landing, and then obviously then their full distance as well. So hopefully that makes sense. And just watch for that lean, and then work in ways in which you can help them to be a little bit more upright and secure, and have that good stability, I guess, or center of mass, if you will, in flight.